I'm currently scaling this car parts and accessories e-commerce brand to over $2,609 per day in revenue with Google Ads alone. And they also have a local store here in Los Angeles selling those same exact products. And as you can see right here on my screen, within the last 16-ish days, this brand has done $41,752. And if we just open up our calculator right here and divide 41,752 divided by 16, that's roughly $2,609 every single day. Although in general, this brand does much more than that on a given basis. I mean, so far this month in 5 days, 6 days, it's done $65,000 in revenue. And year to date, this brand has done roughly $3.5 million in revenue. Because of the overall nature of this brand, if we look at the average order value, it's a fairly high number, roughly $328. And their conversion rate, because it's such an established brand, it's been running for roughly 15-20 years now, it's able to maintain this high conversion rate from Google as well with a very high return on ad spend. In terms of the profit margins, this brand does have very good profit margins because they manufacture all these products. They have their own ways of sourcing these products. So as a result, the profits, the gross margins at least, are 50% and above, which leaves us with a lot of room to really scale. And their break-even ROAS, it's around the 8x. And it is a fairly high number for the break-even ROAS simply because of the nature of their brand, because of the employees they have, etc. But overall, a very profitable brand. Now, for this brand, we started our work on the foundation first. And to kind of illustrate that and how it overall looks, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type on Google Ford parts. And this is just a car brand, but it could be literally any part really there is. What we did is we were doing research into our competitors back when we began to understand what the overall online world, on the online audience, really wanted to see. And as a result, we came to realize that each of these brands out there actually had a fairly congested overall approach. I mean, if we just look at this brand right here, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And it's not really clear where our main attention should go towards, whether it should be the title or whether it should be this section right here or the image, etc. We were seeing this across multiple different brands in the same niche as this brand. And this was really kind of a direction or a position where we could personally come in and make things different. Because yes, the nature of this niche is that there's a lot of nitty-gritty details and little numbers and symbols, etc., which you need to know about. However, all of these other brands, which were at least on Google Shopping, they were doing a terrible job at having that laid out in a professional manner, because all this was doing was just really kind of either over simplistic, like this brand right here, where there was just the add to cart button and the images were pretty blurry and there was no real kind of effort put into it, or it was going overboard with just too much things going on, and there was really no middle portion here. And we took great advantage of this because, as I mentioned earlier, we were the first ones to run Google Ads for this brand from scratch, and they had no previous data to work off of. So first and foremost, we wanted to get the landing page to be a middle point between this kind of simplistic approach and this overboard approach right here. So what we did, we kind of guided the CEO here around having a landing page where the experience was very similar to this brand right here, or this one right here, where there were the necessary things at the top, such as certain kind of promotions going on or certain kinds of header menus right there. And there were also things related to the product itself, product images, important information such as product reviews, etc. But the overall look and feel, we wanted to keep it fairly simple and straightforward. So this is kind of the layout which we had, where it would be just the product title, any types of important information related to the product itself, followed by any types of reviews. And then there would be a little section which talks about shipping, because keep in mind, in 2023, regardless of what niche you're in, it's super important to mention the shipping times. Otherwise, most customers will just go past your website and not even bother buying from you. We essentially laid everything out in a similar manner, from the description to all of the important information, and we had a little specification in the vehicle kind of fitting information in the description as well. And at the end, there were just the reviews. That was pretty much it. A pretty straightforward approach here for the brand we were handling as well. But once our entire kind of thought process was done with the landing page, once the implementation was also done from the brand side, then it was time to move on to the ads. Now, there were two different phases we were taking this brand through. The first phase was the scaling, and the second phase, which has already started, is the scaling phase. Now, let's talk about the first phase, the testing phase. We essentially launched the 2-1 approach, which was 2 performance max campaigns and then 1 dynamic search campaign. This other search campaign right here is just a branded search campaign. There's nothing too interesting in that. But the 2-1 campaign approach we did here because this brand could ship to 2 different countries, United States and Canada. And we wanted to make use of this because we knew that this brand had a lot of competitors within the United States itself. We did not just want to rely on the USA for sales. We wanted to expand onto Canada. Starting with the USA, the 1 performance max campaign which we launched essentially had various different things tested. Within the asset group section right here, if we check, you can see there were a total of 3 different asset groups firing. One asset group was feed only, meaning no images, no logos, etc., and then signals. One asset group was a full build, which essentially is a bunch of different images, logos, headlines, all jam-packed together along with signals. And the third and final asset group was just a feed only with no signals. This is where we do a lot of testing, especially with the brands where we only take a 1 performance max campaign approach. But the reason why we take this kind of approach is because we want to understand on a fundamental level which approach works the best. And clearly here, what we understood is that the listing group, the asset group with a lot of images, logos, etc., and signals outperformed everything by a long shot. I mean, the first one, which was feed only, barely got a 4x ROAS. The second one was running at a 13x ROAS, while the third one, which was feed only but with signals, it was running at a 10x ROAS. So clearly we were doing this to identify the winning approach, and that's how we found out what the winning approach is here. But for the products themselves, we put all 56,000 products in here. Now, not all of them were getting tested, nor did we want to put all in here, but I do understand that because of this approach, there's a lot of them which are not going to get tested, which is completely fine, because if you just can't tell me that, hey, this is my best-selling product, then this my approach might be the best one for you, because this is where you combine Google's smartness with your own to really let the algorithm go out and find the right kind of audience for you. From there, we launched the dynamic search campaign, which right now is running at a 4.14x ROAS, but we wanted to not just focus on shopping only here, we wanted to test dynamic search and get that over with. Next performance max campaign right here for Canada only, it's running at a 7x ROAS, fairly decent numbers because this brand did not have any type of real brand awareness or brand authority in Canada, and we did the same approach here as the USA performance max campaign. But the interesting thing you will find here is out of these 2 listing groups, we only did feed only as well as feed only with signals, simply because we did not want to use the same images working in the USA for Canada, because the audience is different in Canada. They think about these products differently, they use these products differently, etc. So we kind of differentiated approach there, but that was a pretty straightforward testing approach. It was enough to get things going because right off the bat in the beginning, we were able to scale this brand to over $2,000 a day in just a few days from when we launched the campaign here. As you can see, letting it run for around a week or so, we were able to get it up to $7,000 in revenue in a single day, which was absolutely insane, and the results were coming in fairly quickly. So right around this time, we began this scaling phase right here. And the scaling phase, we wanted to start off with this fairly simple approach. We wanted to do vertical scaling only first, and vertical scaling essentially only increasing the budgets, and that's what we did here. It is so far working as it should be working right now. The overall ad spend is adjusting because of the changes we make, and it's not going to be spending the full amount every single day. But as we continue to scale this brand, eventually it will start to get more and more in terms of the overall ad spend done on a daily basis. But as we start to scale more, as we start to really get some interesting results from these campaigns, what we started to understand is that the overall kind of foundation that the CEO originally had installed and kind of laid out for Google Ads, it was very weak. I mean, if we go on over to their Google Merchant Center accounts here, we can see that in general, because of the layout that they had done, this was leading to a lot of product disapprovals. I mean, after we began work here, things were running fine for a while, only to have about half of the product SKUs and the product catalog get completely disapproved. This was a very big setback for us because again, whenever we begin work with any client, our main goal is to fix this up with product disapprovals. And unfortunately, there were a few things which went blindsided to us, and those things were done by the CEO themselves in the beginning, which we were not aware of. But after we figured these things out, it was already too late because the product disapprovals had started. So what we did is we began fixing all these first and foremost. We paused the scaling phase to go back in and fix all these product disapprovals. And as you see here, there's a lot of product disapprovals coming from various different countries, not just the United States alone. So this problem had more to do with the overall product feed submitted to different countries. And in the recent time, we have decreased the overall disapprovals from 44% now to 37%. And as we work through this is going to get improved to 100% active items. But feed optimizations is something we're always consistently doing because again, there was no previous data to go off of for this brand. So what we did is we went to the inside section of the Performance Max and started to do a lot of optimizations in the back end based on this section alone, such as the individual keywords and how they are, what kind of results they're getting, etc. And started to optimize the product titles, descriptions, etc. based on those things. And this includes the images as well. But it doesn't really matter what niche you're in, what industry you're in. If your product feed is weak, if your foundation is not strong, you are gonna struggle to scale long term, and you're gonna always face these kinds of problems over time. If you're again doing $40,000 or more per month in revenue, you need just a little bit of extra help scaling your brand to the next level, go on to my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me to see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. But go ahead and like this video if you found any type of value from this video, and subscribe if this is one of the first times you're watching one of my videos, and click this video right here on one of the other case studies I did, which involved completely different niche and a completely different brand, but how we were able to scale that to over 6 figures every single month.